Hello, hello.
Hello.
And welcome back to the pod.
We are
the Quality Control Chicks. We're getting better at that.
Yep.
Today we are going to be talking about something that was a huge topic of conversation like a month ago, so we're kind of a little late.
We're late on
it.
the jump, but you know what? I think that's good because there's been some residual stuff that came out after all the hype.
Yeah.
So there's actually more to discuss now. So
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Be happy that we waited.
And we can also, talk about it with a very critical lens.
Yes.
Today we're going to talk about the Stranger Things Conformity Gate.
Yes. And how it caused mass hysteria online. And the more I did research into it, the more I realized that it just was people poking a lot of plot holes and pointing out QC mistakes about specifically the final season, but also the continuity of the entire show. So I was going to make it its own segment, part of a different record. And then the more I delved into it, I was like, I feel like we could talk about this for a full hour.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, as I was kind of digging, I was like being reminded of examples from other shows and stuff that also pissed me off.
Yep. So there'll be a bit of that too.
We can talk about actually quite a bit, I think.
Yes. There is one thing I want to note before we start. Mm-hmm. I made a video. We're recording the Super Bowl Sunday. So as of 2 days ago, I posted a video about a movie that Jack and I got to see an advanced screening of that you also saw a different advanced screening of, Nirvana the band, the show, the movie.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're probably wondering who we are. We are Nirvana the band.
And I just wanted to highlight again that Janae worked on that, and it's coming out on the 13th of February. So if it's screening somewhere near you, which it probably is, because I think most of our audience is Canadian, and it's incredibly Canadian. So it is coming out in the U.S., but it'll be in most theaters in Canada Friday the 13th. Ooh. So go see it and watch for Janae's credit. It's there. I can verify. I got a video of it. The only time I take my phone out to record in a theater is if I know someone in the credits, because I'm not really disrupting anybody at that point if I'm waiting to see somebody's name.
And it's cool too because they did a Q&A after the movie as well. So
they did, yes. It actually aired at twice at that theater last week. I saw it on Wednesday? Yeah, and there was a special secret movie screening that Monday as well, and apparently that was the secret movie, so they did a Q&A after that one as well, and you saw it at TIFF last year, which is the Toronto International Film Festival, which they also usually do Q&As. You saw it at midnight, though, so I'm sure that audience was very
oh my God.
wild.
Midnight Madness for that movie was insane, because it's, Toronto International Film Festival is it's the biggest thing for Toronto. That's, everybody comes down here for it. And then this movie is so Toronto.
Yes.
It encapsulates everything that we love about Toronto and everything that's also insane about Toronto. And I mean, literally they get, I don't know how they did it, going into the CN Tower with the film crew and stuff. There's so many things in this film that I don't know how the hell they got away with it.
And you worked on it and you still don't know.
No, I don't. They're just such weird, charming guys that they get away with everything. I don't know. It's insane. And I think everyone should watch it, especially even if you don't know, because I know you said you didn't really watch the show.
We watched Jack had seen the show, and we watched a couple of episodes before the screening, when we knew we were going to go see it. And we saw it with a couple of friends who I don't think had seen the show.
Yeah.
But the movie, it does a good job of, there's time travel in the movie. So that's essentially how they can recap the show at the same time as making an independent film. So you don't really need to have seen the show to know what's going on in the movie, but to get the sense of the style of humor. Because I feel they made a point of saying in the Q&A afterwards that they're doing a few more surprise screenings in the States, like the one that they did on Monday here. But they were joking that, how many people are going to be disappointed by it's not some like Hollywood blockbuster. It's just this like niche Canadian run and gun humor time travel movie.
It's funny though, because I think even people who don't know the show, like I think it could be for anyone. Like,
yeah,
watching it, even myself, I had seen the show, like I watched it in college, so that's why it was such a big deal for me to work on it, because I was like, oh my God, I used to watch these guys and I loved this, like how the way they film things is so run and gun, and so like you're just constantly like, how the hell did they do that? That like I looked up to that filmmaking style. I was like, okay, that's really unique and cool. Not a lot of people do that. So I think like hopefully people who, you know, or even in the States or whatever elsewhere can like really enjoy just this filmmaking style and being like, whoa, like how did they pull that off?
Yeah, I think it sets a unique tone for, I think, I mean, we've already said how Canadian this movie is, but I feel like it's also very Canadian humor in a good way, because I would liken it to, because the shows I was going to say it's very similar to humor style-wise would be I Think You Should Leave.
Yes.
And, oh my God, why am I blanking on what it's called? Oh my God, also Canadian, Nathan Fielder. What's that called? Jack?
Is it not just
Help?
Nathan
Fielder? Nathan For You?
Nathan For You.
Yes. There we go.
Jesus. It's
I was
very.
like, is it not just Nathan something?
I was like, his name is in it. Why can't I think of it? Yeah, similar to I Think You Should Leave and Nathan For You style of humor, which I Think You Should Leave is not Canadian, but Nathan Fielder is Canadian. So it's similar, grounded in reality, but so random humor. It's very similar to those shows, and I say that because I think Nirvana, the band, the show, is a little bit harder to find to watch than Nathan For You. So if you want to get a sense of the style of humor, that would be probably something people are more familiar with.
That's true. Yeah,
we had a hard time finding it to watch. Yeah,
so. I think there's some episodes on YouTube.
Yeah, it started on YouTube, right?
Stuff, yeah. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you could look there to get a sense. But yeah, did you see anything? Because obviously I worked as a visual effects editor on it. So I saw a lot of the sequences that they were doing the big visual effects scenes for. And seeing like the progression with that and how it started to how it ended was insane. Like to me, it looked phenomenal. Like
it looked wild. Like even knowing you worked on it and Jack and I being in the industry, there with another friend who's in the industry, but also another friend who's not, but whose partner is. So film industry adjacent. Mm-hmm. There were still shots where we're like, I know what I'm looking at is VFX, but I don't understand how this was pulled off.
Yeah. Okay. I was curious what you would think, because I know when it comes to visual effects, you're very critical. Which is a good thing.
Because I also worked at the same company for a bit and helped you. It didn't work on this movie, though. It was after my time. But
I was very impressed, and like it all came together so well. When I watched it, I mean, obviously with our podcast, I was watching also with a critical eye.
I did notice a QC thing. I'm so sorry.
No, say it. I need to know.
It's nothing on VFX, although it's something VFX probably could have fixed. There's a few scenes with whiteboards. There's one scene in particular that was really, really bad for continuity of what was on the whiteboard. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And oh my God, sorry, I bumped the mic. Once I was so clocked into the fact that it was different, I was able to pick up on what take they were using for Matt Johnson's coverage because of what was on the whiteboard in the background, because he didn't write it the same way every time.
Yeah.
But that was the only scene, because it's so run and gun, what we call guerrilla style, which is kind of very just like, just shoot what you shoot and you get what you get kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Because it's so like that, there's not so much of continuity is important, but there's not so much of like an importance placed on that.
Yeah.
So that was the only scene I noticed anything. If there was something else off about anything, I didn't notice. But that one whiteboard scene was pretty egregious. I was like, oh boy.
Yeah. Yeah, I wondered about that, because that's also a very important scene in the film.
Yes.
So
I think it was one of the ones towards the end, though.
Okay.
It wasn't one of the ones using, because this is a time travel movie, so a unique facet of it was using footage from the original show and the original run of the show and intermixing it with new footage, trying to get that same effect, presumably shot on the same camera, but also new things shot on a new camera.
It was on the old camera.
I believe you.
And I know because I handled the incoming footage and had to know all about the different, all these. They were old. Oh, fuck. I wish I could remember the name of the camera, but it's like one of those old cameras.
They show it in the movie if it's that exact one, because they make a point of visually switching from, they know they're being filmed. That's part of the dynamic of the movie. So they make a point of pointing out when they switch from the newer cameras to film on the old camera, which helps people like VFX, helps the continuity of blending the original footage with the time travel aspects, and then they go back in time and film on the same camera. So visually, it looks very similar. You're not like faking that effect of old film. You're actually shooting again on that literally the same camera. Yeah. So that was cool to bounce between that and know that it was literally the same. So you didn't have to visually, like, that was not a VFX. Mm-hmm. There were VFX shots, treatments done to that footage, but not to make it look like an old camera.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I did.
I want to see it again. I got to get Harrison to watch it with me because I've told him so much about it. And I'm like, I've hyped it up so much. I'm like, hey,
I'm glad we were able to see it at advanced screening. It was a great audience to watch it with, and the filmmakers were obviously there. There were a lot of people from the production company that they were there. Jay Baruchel was there. I think he was a producer on it or something. Well, he's just friends with them anyway, but I think he also was a producer. I could be wrong. But there were people were like bouncing around beach balls, which they do at Midnight Madness sometimes too. I don't know if they did that for your screening. A lot of the horror ones we've been to, for some reason, there's beach balls you can buy and bop around the audience.
No, there wasn't anything like that, but it was just the energy level was insane. Like,
because everyone's so delirious and tired.
Yeah.
That everything's going to hit a little bit more.
Yeah. It was like people were just like yelling out, and there were so many moments in the movie where just people were like full on hysterically roaring in laughter and then just like yelling out things. And
there's one scene that really got us and our audience, and they set it up so you know exactly what's about to happen, but then it happens and you're like still shocked. You're like, oh, they just did that. Oh no.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the scene afterwards, because I mean, maybe by the time I post this, it'll be out. I don't know. I guess I could just say it and then I can cut it if it goes up before that.
Oh boy. Yeah. A good time. I hope everybody likes it. I can't wait to start seeing more crowds like talking about it. And
there's a YouTube movie reviewer that I follow, Amanda the Jedi. She is Canadian, but she gets to go to a lot of the international, but like American, like not awards. She was recently at one of the award shows as a voter, but she was at South by, and it premiered there first. So I heard about it even like way back at that first screening, her being like, I hope people see this movie. Like the audience, even down there in the US, loved it. So hopefully it gets more traction, and I think it will.
Yeah.
Is so random and offbeat. And Neon is the distributor in the US, so I think that'll help. I think it'll get butts in seats.
Yeah.
Neon's not known for comedy distribution, but I guess the Canadian equivalent is Elevation, and they do a lot more diverse stuff. When I hear Neon, I think horror, but the ramifications of time travel can be scary. I guess.
It's just funny and ridiculous. Okay, let's get to Conformity Gate.
Yes, because there's a lot to cover.
Yeah.
There is a lot.
Yeah, so I guess we can start by saying, spoiler alert.
Yes, if you have not seen season 5 of Stranger Things.
Don't listen to this. Wait till after you've watched it to listen to this. But
go watch Nirvana the band, the show, the movie. And then come back and watch Stranger Things season 5 and then listen to the podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things where, so I did a rewatch of all the seasons leading up to.
Yeah.
because I remember I told you about the one big QC thing with the flowers at the end of the season before this latest final one.
The like last sequence of the finale of season 4.
Yeah. So like I really had a sense of like going into it, like what they were kind of building up towards. And like, I think the part of the reason why this whole Conformity Gate came to be was because people were just very disappointed.
Yeah. And I think that there's like, well, we're going to talk about the factors of why people are disappointed and why this became such a big thing. Had it been real, that would have been pretty cool. Mm-hmm. But I think there was always kind of this underlying error of like, but we kind of feel like we're just doing this because it didn't live up to, everything that was being set up in the previous 4 seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really was just sort of like, I didn't watch all of Game of Thrones, which we've talked about on some previous episodes before, but I feel like it was kind of that level of disappointment, except it was like a little bit more hyped up for this, I feel like, because we had to wait so long for it.
Yeah, and what's funny too is like watching this final season, I did like it, but I think it took like doing my rewatch and being like, oh, this is very different from the other seasons. Mm-hmm. So much so that it didn't feel real, which is what led to this whole thing, which I guess I can explain what it is. So this whole Conformity Gate idea essentially means that the viewers had seen a lot of things that just like didn't seem real as they were watching the finale of the latest season. Mm-hmm. And the idea of conformity came based on the idea that all the characters just seemed too like normal.
Yeah, it seemed too streamlined, too peaceful, too simple to be what everything was building up to.
Yeah, it's like all the characters were kind of, their endings felt almost like just based too much like in this kind of hopeful reality.
Yeah.
Which didn't make sense for all this lead up and the types of characters that we were like, technically grown to realize as who they are. Mm-hmm. So it didn't, the idea of conforming to society, conforming to a standard, a normalcy. It unfortunately, at the end, everything's kind of this happy, like...
Yeah, which, you can have a happy finale, but I think, the disappointment came from, especially the interviews with, the Duffer Brothers, which we'll get into the Duffer Brothers, leading up to was they were very much pushing, like, this is going to be really big, this is going to be very, climactic, there's going to be a lot of... they promised a very, I don't know, epic.
Yeah. So like the interview they did, they basically said this is going to be the darkest season.
Yes.
And to be prepared to see traumatic things happen, for there to be like a dark ending to this story.
I guess just prepare for everything.
A dark Christmas, though, I would say.
Yeah.
Kind of like how, like, with, Harry Potter even is another example where, and there was a lot of similarities to Harry Potter to this kind of final season.
Yeah.
Where it's like, as it goes on, it gets darker and darker with the audience, right? Because the audience kind of starts young and then, they're growing up, they're growing with the characters. Yeah. The characters aren't kids anymore. Like, there's going to be some really dark elements to this story. And, other shows of this sort or films of this sort do that and follow that path. But people were like, well, why did they hype it up to be this? This is going to be so dark. This is be prepared to, maybe see someone die that you love. Like, and then there's kind of no real, and I guess we can get right to it with, I don't think 11 died.
Oh, I don't think 11 died either. I'm fully on the train of Mike's assessment at the end being essentially his realization of what went down. I think that's pretty accurate because there's so many signs of, people point out a lot that her nose wasn't bleeding.
Yeah.
When she was standing at the door to the the portal when it was all being ripped apart, she was also just standing there.
Yeah.
Like,
one thing I noticed, which was like a big thing, and I think this was due to like our whole like looking for things and like continuity and this and that, I noticed there was no tattoo on her hand. I don't know if they just forgot to edit that in, or again, this is kind of what leads into this whole Conformity Gate thing, is people were really looking for clues when this ending happened with 11.
Yeah, people were analyzing the entire season and the entire show for QC stuff, which is why I was like, oh God, this has to be its own episode, because it was forcing everybody to look at the entirety of Stranger Things with that critical eye. And unfortunately, things like the tattoo, and not so Conformity Gate related, but I want to bring it up anyway, was Holly had the Under Armour logo on her clothes.
That was a good
which they went back and fixed.
Like immediately. I remember seeing that still online, and then I went to go look for it like right after, and I'm like, they already removed it.
Yeah. So things like that they'll fix. But then because people were already combing through and nitpicking like literally every frame of every scene, there were more things that kept coming up, and it was stemmed from, anywhere from story points to visual QC mistakes. And all of this was fueling the conspiracy. I guess the other half of Conformity Gate that we didn't really get to yet was this idea that everyone thought they were going to drop a secret finale after the finale, because of all of the mistakes that people were pointing out, saying like, this is too obvious to not be a nod to something else or a clue, or, this was all in Vecna's creation. The whole conformity was his projection to Mike or Will or whoever of the ending they were hoping to think that they would get to. But there was still going to be some sort of twist that actually that's not the case.
Yeah.
I believe it was January 7th when people thought this new episode would be dropping. I remember even I went to Netflix to check to see if it was going to be there. It wasn't.
So they said the January 7th came about because the very first episode, Will rolls a 7.
The roll, it was a 7. The Demogorgon, it got me.
And then obviously the finale ended on January 1st because it was New Year's. And then I think it was Netflix did like a post on their social media that said, like, it was like a Stranger Things related like post, but then it said what's next with their like logo. And then it said like something, tune in January 7th. So people are like, are they saying a new episode is coming for Stranger Things? But I think they just meant, okay, what's the next TV show?
Yes, because they are doing more Stranger Things content. There's that Stranger Things
Animated.
85 that's coming out. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah.
They did drop a documentary on January 12th, which I think didn't help any of this situation either. It just made it worse, which is again why I'm happy we're talking about it a little bit out of when it was so in the zeitgeist, because now the documentary's dropped now. And I mentioned before, I mean, we'll get into more of the nitty gritty examples still as well, but we're filming this on Super Bowl Sunday. There is still a continuation of Conformity Gate if people think that Stranger Things is going to drop something during the Super Bowl. So maybe I'll add a little addendum while I'm editing this if anything does drop, but it's still, people are still...
The eagerness to have more is insane.
Because of the disappointment. Like when Game of Thrones was disappointing, people were like, wow, that sucked. And they vocalized it, but they were like, it's done.
Yeah, it's done.
With this, it's like, no. But what about all of these plot holes and all the stuff we found? What do you mean this is it?
Yeah, it's sad because it's like people don't want to let go. And I understand. Because I feel the same way. I'm like, this has been 10 years.
Yeah.
And it started off so strong. Like you go into it being like, it's so well thought out. It's so unique and interesting. And then, you love it because of the references to the 80s and just like that culture. And it's like, it's so fun and you expect so much from it. And then as the seasons go, you're like, oh, they're really grounding it in this kind of horror world, which is exciting, where it's like Freddy Krueger.
They had Robert Englund playing Henry Creel's dad, which again, we're going to talk about spoilers. Henry Creel is Vecna, is sort of like Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
There's a lot of nods to, in the later seasons, especially 80s horror, which is something that we really like. And it made it higher. It felt like higher stakes because everything felt a little bit darker.
Yeah. And you're
like they promised the season would be, and it wasn't.
The horror elements were so good. And like rewatching the seasons, it was gross. Like there was Cronenberg-esque like creatures. There was the horror elements with like the Freddy Krueger like villain. It was grounded in such a like horrific realm.
Yeah.
That like it was the last season was just so disappointingly PG. Like it just didn't have that level.
They watered it down a lot. And I think, we waited 2 years for this, for various reasons, for this last season to come out. Strikes, COVID, all this stuff. And there's going to be stuff that disconnects waiting that long for a continuation of a story. But I think, and like I said, why this became its own episode is because the QC mistakes were just so overwhelmingly present that it was distracting to people as they were watching the show. And that's our perception of most things if there's egregious QC mistakes and stuff we're watching. But the whole point of this podcast and the whole point of, why we had a job doing this out of school was because the average person shouldn't be noticing that stuff. So when you get something like a show that is so popular, like Stranger Things, where all people can talk about is the stuff that was wrong about the final season of their favorite show.
Yeah.
From little things to big things, like Robin picking up the records and saying, "This is Will," and it's London Calling's The Clash, which doesn't have "Should I Stay or Should I Go" on it. But the other song, or the other record, was Kate Bush and was exactly Max's song.
Yeah.
So little details like that where people were like, well, maybe this is a slightly different timeline. Will's whole speech, and this was a whole point of contention for multiple reasons. People downrated the Will's coming out episode so low just because he came out. My issue with the scene was just that it was incredibly long and felt like it was shoehorned in.
Yeah, I think since season one, in the outline description of the characters, the writers intended for Will to be gay and that he always felt out of place. So, that people go all fucking annoyed by that whole storyline. It's frustrating because that's not the problem. The problem was that when your finale battle is shorter than someone coming out in a whole speech, maybe there's...
But then not only were people downvoting the episode because they didn't like the speech, it also was being picked apart for plot points that weren't accurate because people were really analyzing what he was saying, and him saying like, oh, we were getting milkshakes at Melvald's and we loved getting lost in the woods. It's like, well, no, you got lost in the woods when you got brought to the Upside Down. So I doubt that was a core memory for you that you were super fond of. And Melvald's is the warehouse that Joyce works at. It's not a diner. But people started pointing out that, because the play that came out, it used to be a diner or somewhere that you could get milkshakes. And that's not something Will would have known. That's something Vecna, Henry would have known. So people were picking up on little, lazy writing cues and thinking that it was hints to a larger story that it wasn't. So not only were people hating on the scene because they were like, why is this necessary? This is so long. It goes on forever.
Yeah, like
it also just wasn't accurate.
If you're going to have a long monologue, it should be well thought.
Yes. And it felt like the message was always thought out, but what he was actually saying felt very thrown together.
Yeah. I mean, speaking on the whole play thing, I think that's part of what caused the discrepancies in this final season was because essentially in the final season, this play, which not a lot of people had seen, was canon to the story.
Yes.
Suddenly.
And they hinted at it in the show. But unlike stuff that Marvel does where you can watch the shows on their streaming service and get context, the play had only, I think, just come out, had a limited run. You're lucky if you saw it kind of thing.
Yeah.
So to try and tie in stuff like that seemed pretty crucial to missing story points.
Yeah.
You're kind of isolating the audience to the few people that were actually able to go see that. And I'm not saying they shouldn't have made the play. I'm sure it's good. It's an interesting point of the story to like explore.
Yeah, yeah.
But when your final season like sprinkles in stuff like that, it's fine to have the Easter eggs, but if they're essential to understanding story points and you don't elaborate on that for the audience that hasn't seen or even knew about the play, like I think I had to tell Jack there was a play. He's like, oh, I didn't get that. I didn't know about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean, it also added this other level of continuity issues as well, because, you know, in this play, Henry went to school with Joyce and Hopper and Mike's parents and knew them all, and they were all the same age in this play. That doesn't make sense because in the show, previous season, when they introduced Henry for the first time and they're telling his whole story, he's very young. He's taken because he kills his sister, his mother, and his father ends up, like, he survives, but he sends his son to Dr. Brenner because he knows he has powers. And so he's very young when he gets branded as one.
Yeah.
And goes through this whole thing. And then he stays there. The whole point is that once he's at Dr. Brenner's like lab, he's there until he's older and then sees
and that's
meets
when
Levin.
11 and all stuff. And so like they just gave him a Rumspringa to a regular high school for like 4 years and then brought him back in.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't line up timeline-wise, and it doesn't make sense.
It's like, I understand that they wanted, because people really did like the play. I think that's part of why they tried to add it, because it had such a good review that they were like, okay, people really liked this. They liked this kind of backstory with Henry. Like, let's make that a bigger part of this. However, they did not address those discrepancies in timeline. And that's what started this kind of, once people start seeing those discrepancies, they start digging for even more.
Yes. And that, again, is the whole like unraveling of the Conformity Gate thing and part of why people, even if you weren't on the bandwagon of there's going to be a secret finale episode, you would still be aware of all of the things people were pointing out. And you're like, even if these issues don't amount to something, I still noticed this. It still affected my enjoyment of the show. Like, Vecna dies because Joyce chops his head off. At no point in that scene was there any recognition. Like, I saw people online making memes of Henry Vecna looking at Joyce being like, it's you, or hey, Joyce. Obviously, there was not really any room for humor in that moment. But, you know, it was like,
I know I look a little different.
Yeah, I know I look a little different than when we were in high school together for some reason, but it's me, Henry. I'm friends with your son, kinda. Don't kill me.
I might be creeped out by that.
But like, there was nothing. And like, they make such a point of like Nancy and Mike's mom knew it was Henry and all this stuff. And like, I guess that didn't really get to Joyce and Hopper, but they'd all seen what Vecna looked like. There wasn't no recognition or connection to that at all, except for Max jumping around in Henry's head and going into the high school hallway a couple of times. If you're going to sprinkle in stuff like that, fine, but don't have it be affecting major plot points of the overall story. There's certain things that just don't make sense with things they set up in earlier seasons as well, like callbacks to things that are even within the show that they just don't acknowledge. Like, if the Upside Down is frozen on the day that Will went missing, why were Brenner's notes frozen in the Upside Down from his research? Because that's how they find out about the wormhole stuff, was his research is still in the Upside Down. But there was like a timeline disconnect of why would that all still be down there kind of thing, because they've been down there and like raided stuff since, and why would they leave that out for people to find? Why did Vecna take 12 kids specifically was such a buildup to the season that ended up being for nothing.
Yeah.
People thought it was going to have to do with like a clock, or it would help with the reversing time or manipulating time because of the 12 hours on a clock, 12 kids.
Yeah, there was no kind of plan and payoff, really.
No, because Vecna specifically had a lot of imagery and parallels with like grandfather clocks, only to have the Duffers be like, I don't know, it's just 12 kids.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, fuck me for enjoying a show and thinking this was leading up to something then, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like this is the thing. Like, a lot of people were seeing the importance in things and piecing it together. And I think the disappointment comes from, like, finding out that these things that people were noticing weren't really that important.
Yeah, and you're going to have fans build up and analyze things that don't end up being anything. And that's normal and true about a lot of franchises and shows. And that's not to be discredited. It means people are enjoying what they're watching and they're trying to figure out what's going on. That's a lot of the appeal of watching something is like wondering if you're, you know, on the same wavelength as the writers and figuring stuff out as you go. But I think if you're not going to pay it off in the way that people are thinking, that's fine. But I don't think you should completely throw it out and just say, oh, that was nothing. Because you're kind of discrediting fans being excited about something.
Always go with it. Like, even if it's not something you thought of, if someone's like, oh yeah, this makes sense because of this, and you're like, yeah, totally, that was the plan.
Well, even if you don't say, even
just go with it,
or at least acknowledge, like, you know what, we should have done that. That's actually really cool.
Yeah,
not the way we decided to take it, but yeah, like, it's cool theory instead of just being like, well, I don't know, it's just 12 kids.
Yeah, I do think, you know, it's unfortunate because there were, even with the documentary, it didn't help. Whole point of saying, like, when you go into something, you hope writers kind of have this full-fledged idea and every detail is thought of. And when people are picking, especially a story that is so complex and has all these kind of elements to it, like, it should be really thought down to, like, it being its own world, its own book. Like, people should have, like, literally analyzed it to a T. And then to find out that a lot of details were just missed or forgotten. And it's disappointing to hear that, because you want to think that these people who brought you into this world would care about it enough to make sure those details weren't missed.
Yeah, and I think, you know, hearing I do think, because if you notice, I watched a video, Drew Gooden did a very good breakdown of Conformity Gate, and mentioning the documentary tied in with the show and all the stuff we're kind of talking about too. It's on YouTube. He pointed out that the Duffer Brothers weren't really associated with the documentary. So I think that was Netflix being like, that was their decision. We're going to show you why they did everything they did. It wasn't studio interference why this went wrong. It was the Duffer Brothers' fault, basically. He didn't say that specifically, but he did point out that they weren't part of it. And then Jack and I sort of discussed after watching his breakdown of, like, I really do feel like that was Netflix's way of being like, this is the one time where we're not going to stand for, you know, Netflix stepped in and changed stuff. Like, no, they just shot this and clearly didn't care about what the fans had been looking into. Yeah,
there were a lot of some interesting things in it. Like, you know, even them just kind of admitting that the scripts weren't even really finished yet when they were starting to film. Yeah. And, you know, things like the design of the Abyss, there was no real description or kind of anything. The production designers had to kind of go based on a general vibe for what it was supposed to look like. Yeah. And I think, you know, there might have been a bit of miscommunication because the whole world with that Vecna was, like, scared of, like the desert, Arizona? Was that
I think it was Arizona, yeah.
You know, pinnacle moment of him getting the powers. Like, there's a significance there. I think they made the Abyss based on that because they were trying to, like, tie things together. But really, it did not fit in this world of the Upside Down because we had, like, if you watch the earlier seasons, like, it was so blue and dark and looked toxic and draining. And then you couldn't breathe
the air. But now 3 seasons after season 2, you can breathe there totally fine.
You can breathe fine. And then, you know, your main character is constantly talking about, you know, it likes the cold. It needs the cold. You know, you can't be warm, but then you situate this abyss in like essentially a desert area.
Yeah, and
it
even
didn't make sense.
Hearing that one writer point out, like, well, I feel like there should be demogorgons or demodogs or demobats or something
for the big battle.
Yeah, and then the other writer being like, oh, I feel like people have demo fatigue. It's like, no, this is why we watch the show. It's the big battle. Like, yeah, we want to see the big creature because they definitely hinted with the production design that the area the kids were being held in when they're in Vecna's mind, it was clearly a creature, and that looked really cool.
The design was
you're waiting
good.
For that reveal, and I thought it did look cool, but I was expecting like demogorgons to jump out of its limbs or come from anywhere, and there was just none of that. Yeah, they actually beat the beast pretty easily, and if anything, it was just 11. Like, everyone else was kind of just spread around with their flamethrowers, and Nancy was going all Rambo on it or whatever. Yeah. And that was cool, but ultimately, I think 11 was the one that brought it down.
I think people just expected so much more, and I mean, you're leading up to a big finale. I mean, that's what people wanted and hoped that there would be care in that, and that's what we were gonna get. I mean, it was supposed to be a big production, and
we did a whole 2-part breakdown about the Scream series, and I'm not just bringing this up because I like Scream. It's relevant.
When aren't you talking about Scream?
Hey, there's a new one coming out soon.
Please.
It's relevant.
Manifesting that pre-screening.
If anyone wants to invite us to a screening, an early screening, please. I need to know what happens.
We want to see it before anyone else.
Yeah.
I really will like die if I get spoiled some key things in that movie before we see it.
Anyway, the tie-in I have to make to this season and Scream is the whole point of that we talked about with the third movie, and why that one was so disappointing was because they were rewriting a script as they were shooting. And I think this is a bigger and worse example of the issues that come from having like a bullet point outline but still writing everything that fills in the blanks as you're filming.
Yeah.
It just is never... you had 2 years for this to really...
Yeah.
And you were still shooting without a script.
Yeah.
They had, like, Maya Hawke. There's a scene where they're in the hospital, and it's Robin, Vicky...
Lucas and
Max. And the Demodogs are after them, and they're hiding in a laundry room. And you're like, this is it. Someone's going to get killed. And then Mrs. Wheeler comes in and saves the day. Maya Hawke had to point out to the director that Max and Lucas don't know who Vicky is.
They don't know who Vicky is. They also don't know she's gay.
Yeah.
Like, that's never... She had come out, obviously, as Steve, and then comes out to Will in the scene
And I'm sure
before.
Nancy knows, but... Because they're friends, but, like...
Yeah.
We don't see that.
Yeah. But, like, a lot of the characters don't know this about Maya Hawke's character yet. And so, like, I think what's insane is, like, during the scene they're shooting it, like, they're like, oh, yeah, like, you're thinking you're gonna die, like, you could kiss Vicky. And it's like, she's, like, had to remind them, like,
Max and Lucas would have
don't
a very...
know that I'm gay, so my character, like... And this is the thing, it's sometimes it's interesting when, like, actors, they care about their characters so much that they're, like, they know them... Like, it's their own self. And so she's like, I wouldn't have just done that because I'm still holding that inside. I haven't told everybody yet.
And, you know, like, it's not that Max and Lucas would probably not be okay with it. It's just that she wouldn't think to do that in that moment because she, no matter what's going on, she's still got that awareness of, this is a part of me I haven't shared with everybody.
Yeah.
And it's just, the thing is, the actors know their characters so well, and in a way, they're the only constant. Like, writers' rooms can change, elements about producers, productions, talk about story can change, but you know your character the best because you are the character. And the fact that she had to point out stuff like that, she shouldn't be the only person keeping that in mind.
Yeah, exactly.
The audience cares most about the characters.
Exactly. Like, more people should know the character's background, their intentions, and their actions. And that's the directors.
Yeah. So
and it's just crazy that there were things that just were not even thought of in big key moments like that.
This is what I mean when I say that I don't think the documentary helped, because it just highlighted a lot more of that stuff that you kind of figured was going on anyway. But then to see it, you're just like, oh, man, I thought so, but really?
It didn't help the cause.
No, it didn't.
Unfortunately.
It's the reason why it's Super Bowl Sunday and people still think we're getting a new episode.
Yeah.
Hello, this is Lisa coming to you from the Edit Suite. We are going to split this episode into 2 parts. Turns out there was a lot we had to say about Conformity Gate, so this is the end of part 1. We will be posting part 2 in the coming weeks, so watch for that. We hope you're enjoying our discussion of Conformity Gate and all of the hysteria surrounding that phenomenon, so make sure you tune in. Thanks, guys.
Quality Control Chicks podcast is produced and co-hosted by Lisa Cumming
and Janae Perez.
Audio mix and master by Jack Rudy.
You can follow us on Instagram at Quality Control Chicks Pod for BTS, bonus content, and clips.
You can give us a watch or listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or anywhere you listen to your favorite shows.